Hello, BookTube. I'm here to do a Tuesday tag. I was tagged by Steve Donahue, and this is the literary dinner party tag from Hannah's Books, a channel I love. And I commented back and forth with her a little bit too. It's a wonderful tag, and it's just the right thing. So I enjoyed both their answers, and wanted to give it a shot. I didn't over prepare for it like I normally would try. They're actually somewhat complex to think about, so it's a bit of a challenge, so we'll see how I do here. So let me get the questions up from Hannah's site here. Okay, so questions. Number one, when you are at a dinner party, do you ask people what they're currently reading? If not, why not? Have you received any great recommendations at a dinner party for a new book to read, or had an especially interesting bookish conversation there? You have trouble speaking. I generally don't start book conversations. Fortunately, because at least in my little part of the world, everybody knows I'm a librarian. We can end up there pretty doggone quick. And I think the last time at a dinner party I had a really good bookish conversation was down in, we were at a party in Naples, Florida. And it was at a gentleman's house. He was an educator. And he had an incredible collection of John Updike. I mean, the nonfiction stuff, which I like John Updike's reviews and even his conversations about art. I'm not big on his novels. But this guy had everything, and it was impressive to see, no matter if you're into Updike's stuff or not. So it's always fun to see when somebody has a passion and they have a collection. He had a wonderful home library. I wandered around a little bit looking, and we talked books. So that was great fun. I still remember it years later. Number two, which authors, living or dead, would you invite to a dinner party? These invitees can go one at a time or in groups, so various authors would get to meet each other. And I think that's sort of neat. And you've heard this sort of thing before, right? And we tend to hear similar type answers, I think, sometimes. But you see what people like, what fascinates them. I'd go a little... I have a couple things. For modern day, the conversation now in our world and the state of the world, I'd love to get William Vollmann and Kim Stanley Robinson and David Brin into a room, sit around, have snacks, and talk about... I think Kim Stanley Robinson's really good with science and political movements and his fiction. Vollmann's an incredibly talented guy, and Brin brings a really strong scientific look, but also good with character. So I think that would be fascinating. If I was going to have one here at the house, a little less highbrow, I'd like to get Louis L'Amour, Edgar Rice Burroughs, and who else? Zane Grey would be interesting. I'm not as big a fan of his fiction, but I like his nonfiction. I think that would be great fun. Maybe some of the old British thriller writers like Alistair MacLean, Desmond Bagley, Hammond Innes. So yeah, that would be it. And then probably my number one most exciting guest would have been Ursula K. Le Guin. I'm a huge fan and admire her very much. And I think I'd be selfish with that and just have her over herself. Number three, which characters would you like to invite? This one's a little harder. I think I would invite Bilbo Baggins, Frodo Baggins, and Gandalf. How much fun would that be? So, number four, have you ever wanted to invite a historical figure after reading a biography or autobiography about that person? Who would it be? I think because he knew so many of the movies, the two people. Robert Kraft, who wrote music, and he also wrote a great deal about Stravinsky and was a great friend of Stravinsky, and I love his books. I have a half a shelf full of his stuff. And the other one would be John Richardson, who did the just a massive Picasso, multi-volume Picasso biography. I'd love to sit down and talk to those two. Okay, so number 5. What would you serve at one of these parties from questions 2 to 4? Or perhaps, what would one of your literary guests bring if you hosted a potluck meal? Ah, boy, I think it matters which group, right? The thriller, I think we just do barbecue. It's outside barbecue, sit outside, that'd be the way to do it. And I don't mind doing, I let them talk and keep their glasses full, and I'll do the cooking, that's fine. Okay. Number 6, what is your favorite meal scene in a book or a screen adaptation of a book? Now, Steve mentioned the Atreides when they first got onto Dune, and I think that was a really good one because there was a lot of tension there. And Hannah mentioned a scene from 84 Charing Cross Road. And I love, in the 84 Charing Cross Road, which is my favorite movie of all time, I think, I love the scene when Helene does the Yorkshire pudding and how she describes it. I just got a great... There's a lot of good food scenes in that movie. Okay, so yeah, 84 Charing Cross Road for me too. And number 7, dinner parties aren't the only times people share food and drink. Are there literary scenes you love where characters get together over brunch, afternoon tea, picnics, cocktail parties, etc.? I'm going to go with the same movie, and there's a really touching scene. I think his name was Humphreys. He was he actually played the Baron in the Lynch Dune. I think his name's Mr. Humphreys. And he goes home with part of the meal from, part of his share out of the package that Elaine Amp sends to the British booksellers. She sends him food and stuff. It's a transatlantic friendship. And he brings it home, and I think it's his grandmother is there, and she looks very Victorian and very strict. And she gives him a disapproving eye about this food coming all the way from America. And I think he reassures her that it only came as far as Denmark, and then she's delighted. When she gets delighted, it's just wonderful to see. She just changes character totally. I love it. Number 8, name one of your favorite cringeworthy dinner party scenes in a book or adaptation. It's not, I'm going to fudge here a little bit. I'm going to stay with the same movie, 84 Charing Cross Road, but it's not a dinner party. And it's something I do at the table once in a while, and my wife puts up with me doing it. There's a scene where Frank Dole, Anthony Hopkins, at the start, he's married. His wife is Dame Judi Dench, and she's sitting at one end of the table, and he's at the other. And he's a very meticulous guy, and he uses his fork and he takes a bite and he chews it, and you know he's counting how many times he chews. Swallows, takes a drink. He goes, very nice, very tasty. Flash forward, I don't know how many years, 40 years, 30 years, whatever they've been married, and he's at the dinner table again, and he does the same thing. So you know this poor, poor woman has watched him do this for decades. That wouldn't drive you crazy, what would, right? He's a wonderful guy. Okay. So that's cringeworthy, right? So I do it every once in a while at the table just to kid around, and my kids know that it's dad humor. Okay, number 9, when the pandemic ends, what will you serve at your first dinner party or take to your first potluck you attend? Matters, what time of year are we going to be able to get out of here? Like I said, I love to grill outside, and I like that sort of thing, and I like inside. And the thing is, we finally moved from our old farmhouse to this newer, well, it's not a newer house, it's an old house, but to us it was the dream house and the house I've wanted for a long time. And it happened during the pandemic. We've never had anybody here, right? We used to have Steve here, Steve Donahue, and Frida Bean, and we've had, we've met other booktubers and all that. So yeah, I think if it matters the time of year, I think if it's summertime we'll have barbecue, and if it's winter or fall we'll just figure out something. My wife makes the best New England style clam chowder, and we make a lot of different Portuguese dishes and stuff. So comfort food's the order of the day, right? So yeah, that's what we do. And number 10, which booktubers would you like to invite, tag for this literary dinner party? I don't know who's been tagged and who hasn't. I've watched Hannah and Steve, and I know some more people have done it. I'm trying to get right here. I just started watching a new channel. I think he has like 4 videos. I watched them all. It's fantastic. And I don't know if he even knows this channel exists, but if he does, it's Roy Reads. And he did a thing on Stephen King that I really enjoyed, and he's done some other things. So it's always good to get somebody new in there. Motley Reads. Dario, I love his channel. Everyone Who Reads Must Converse. That Noah. I don't know if Ernest Lee Eston's done this yet or not. And I've known Eston. I actually met him in New York City, and he helped show my family around once. And so another booktuber I've gotten to meet. And that's what's fun, right? The pandemic sort of gotten rid of that. I met Beacon Hill Books. Those of you who remember that channel. She was a wonderful lady. In person. And then obviously Steve and Frida. And all sorts of friendships online. And that's a wonderful thing. We can do this now. Can you imagine if this pandemic had struck and we didn't have at least this outlet and the Instagram and all the other things that some of us do. So, yeah, I'll stop there. It's those 4 and anybody else. I mean, it's a wonderful tag, and it gets you thinking. So I appreciate it, Steve, and I appreciate it, Hannah, and I hope everyone stays safe. Thank you, BookTube.